What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a very important video where we will talk about the Premier League being in crisis according to the Daily Mail. And Mike Keegan, the journalist, he's reporting that the Premier League is in crisis because they lost the legal battle with Man City over unlawful sponsorship rules. But these rules are from 2021 until November 2024. The verdict, of course, could have serious consequences for the Premier League and all the clubs, but the Premier League amended these sponsorship rules quickly and very smartly, and the clubs voted 16 against 4 the new rules in. So this verdict is not about the new rules of associated party transactions and basically the same ownership sponsorship rules, because Man City of course are challenging those as well. And this verdict is not affecting the 115 charges against Man City or 130 charges against Manchester City. But so you will get all the details that you need to know about this latest news in this video. So if you enjoy these updates around the Manchester City legal battle, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But please comment after listening and watching the video. So the Premier League has suffered a significant setback after a tribunal deemed the previous sponsorship rules null and void. But these sponsorship rules are not active anymore because there are new amended sponsorship rules in play. But these sponsorship rules ran from 2021 until November 2024, and now this tribunal deemed these rules null and void. Basically, they were unlawful according to the tribunal, and this could trigger a series of huge compensation claims. The Daily Mail is speculating that this could plunge the Premier League into crisis. So what Man City wanted to do, because they were afraid that they would get punished and relegated because of the 115 charges against them and the investigation against them, they wanted to sponsor themselves basically with huge contracts through Etihad Airways and First Abu Dhabi Bank, which both are owned by Manchester City's owners. So that shouldn't be allowed, and the Premier League didn't allow it. They were blocked in 2023, and as a response, Man City took the Premier League to court, effectively declaring war on the Premier League. And Man City claimed that those sponsorship rules were unlawful, and now the tribunal ruled in favor of Manchester City with the old rules. But after the Premier League heard that verdict previously, they quickly amended the rules, and the clubs voted 16-4 in majority, voted in the new sponsorship rules, and those are in effect, and those are still legal and lawful, and they are in effect in the Premier League. The tribunal is looking at those rules as well, and if the tribunal finds those new rules, the current rules which are in effect, unlawful, that could spell huge trouble, because then basically nothing would stop Manchester City and Newcastle giving themselves £500 million sponsorship deals or £1 billion worth sponsorship deals, and that would really plunge the Premier League into chaos. But the lawsuits could keep coming, because this new verdict means that any deals that were rejected or reduced in value under the system which was in operation between December 2021 to November 2024, they could now be subject to huge compensation claims. If a club believes its competitive performance was harmed by a decision made under the previous sponsorship system, it could sue the Premier League. But this is hugely important. None of these rules and none of these verdicts are linked to the 115 charges leveled at Manchester City, because that is from a period of 2009 until 2019-2020. So that case is still not finished, because the verdict is going to be announced in the coming weeks, according to Pep Guardiola. In a further blow, though, which is unlikely to go down well across the Premier League, the Premier League may now have to foot its own legal bill, but Manchester City's legal bill, and that could result in like 20 million combined legal fees, but that's not a lot of money when you consider how much money is in the Premier League in total. And the Premier League chief executive Richard Masters in an email played down this development. He said that the previous APT rules, the sponsorship rules, are no longer in place and new rules were voted into force. This is crucial. So the new rules are still in effect and legal. The league has previously told clubs that this decision was about the legal status of the previous sponsorship rules and it would not impact the operation of new rules. So Richard Masters said that the new rules are in force and clubs remain required to comply with them. These APT sponsorship rules were brought in after Saudi Arabia bought Newcastle because they were afraid that the Saudi Arabia could basically outspend everyone in the Premier League, even Manchester City, and just fast track their rise through the league. They could spend billions of pounds. That's how rich Saudi Arabia is. And then Newcastle and Man City would be just the two teams who have any chance of winning the Premier League title, and everybody else would just fight for third place. And the attention will now shift to the new legal challenge because the tribunal is looking at the current amended sponsorship rules, and if they again find in City's favor, that may allow the likes of Man City and Newcastle to just sign any sponsorship deals with their owners, and they could pump any amount of money into their club. How would you feel about that if Newcastle signed a £1 billion per year sponsorship deal and Man City did the same? Because they have the money to do that. So let's summarize today's verdict. The impact of today's decision is small and potentially nothing at all. It increases the chance that the Premier League will have to pay Man City's 10 million legal bill, but that's pretty much it. It does not void the current sponsorship rules, nor does it make it more likely that they will be deemed unlawful in a new tribunal. It opens the Premier League up to compensation claims, but it's highly unlikely anything comes from those. Parties would need to demonstrate damages, which would be very hard and pretty much impossible in Man City's case given the requirement to adhere to UEFA's rules on fair market value. The tribunal found that the Premier League's fair market value determination was not unreasonable, and that's the big thing. It confirms that the amended sponsorship rules were poorly constructed with unlawful terms, but we knew this already. Anyone who says differently or that it's a significant development doesn't actually understand the matter or what's going on. And if a learned person disagrees with that statement, please feel free to send them this video and to explain what is actually happening. Most folks seem to be failing to see the why behind Man City's action and what they are trying to achieve going forward. Man City's main objective is PR. So they are viewed by the public as the victim in this scenario. And that they are not the victim. They are the criminals. They are the ones who broke the rules and trying to get away with it, trying to get away with crime. They want to paint a picture that they are the victim, and very soon you will see why when the final verdict in the 115 charges against Man City comes out in a few weeks' time. So when the profit and sustainability rules were introduced in 2013, there was a rule that transactions, so for example sponsorship deals between related parties, so a company owned by Abu Dhabi and Man City is also owned by Abu Dhabi, they are related parties. So these transactions, these sponsorship rules need to be fair market value, FMV in short. This means that if two parties were related and they did a transaction, the transaction must be priced in a way that two independent entities would do so on commercial terms. So they can't artificially inflate the numbers, the sponsorship deals worth, because it's against the rules. It's a crime to do so. After the leaked emails surfaced showing Man City breached these rules, the Premier League realized that state-owned clubs were able to bypass these rules with ease. They could construct relationships between entities that technically were not related but in reality they were. So in 2021, when the Premier League saw that Newcastle was about to be bought by the state of Saudi Arabia, the Premier League realized they could easily do a Man City and maybe with even bigger sponsorship deals and cheat the rules. So the clubs voted in new rules known as APT rules, so Associated Party Transaction rules. The big difference was that the definition of associated was more broad than the definition of related as in the previous rules. It gave the Premier League rights to veto the deals, whereas previously the deals would go ahead and the Premier League could only challenge them afterwards. So that last year the Premier League clubs voted to amend the rules to give the Premier League even greater powers. Man City of course challenged legally these Associated Party Transaction rules. Having read the initial decision, it's clear what Man City was trying to achieve. Man City's main aim was to attack the concept of fair market value applying to sponsorship deals. This was important to City because if they succeeded to have the fair market value laws deemed unlawful, then this could mitigate a great deal of damage in the case against them for 130 breaches of Premier League rules. Man City failed to achieve that aim though. Fair market value was declared lawful. This was a massive blow to Man City's chances at the hearing on the 130 charges against Man City. Its secondary aim was to have the Associated Party Transaction rules declared unlawful. This aim had two objectives. First objective, it would enable Man City to claim applicable damages against the Premier League. And the second objective was to create a window for Man City to secure a monstrous large sponsorship deal with associated parties it controls. This is vital to Man City given they likely expect to suffer massive fines, compensation awards and reduction of income from relegation as a result of the 130 charges. A mega sponsorship deal could be the difference in keeping them relevant as a club during this time. The issue Man City had is when the tribunal reached its initial decision, it did not explicitly state whether these APT rules were unlawful as a whole or not. The decision only clarified which aspects of the rules were unlawful, specifically the amendments that took place last in March year and the exemption of shareholder loans from the start of the rules in 2021. I believe that the decision was flawed because it was constructed on a falsehood and also equates shareholder loans with commercial loans instead of equity. It encourages tax avoidance by default as well. It would be interesting to see whether the Premier League chooses to appeal it. So Man City asked the tribunal to decide whether APT rules as a whole were unlawful or not. And this is when the Premier League acted quickly. They sought to update the rules in order to address the elements that the tribunal has decided were unlawful. And of course, the Premier League, before they held the vote to amend these APT rules, Man City made threats to clubs to try and stop them voting through the changes. This is because during this period, the APT rules still stood. They needed the tribunal to rule they were unlawful in the whole, at which point they could secure that mega sponsorship deal. But the Premier League passed the new rules, rendering the tribunal's upcoming decision on lawfulness of the rules as moot. They are new rules now. So this closed the window for Man City, whose response has been to initiate a new tribunal against the new rules, which is yet to start. Today, the old tribunal finally gave their ruling that says the APT rules were unlawful as a whole, but those are the obsolete previous APT rules. The current rules are in place. So Man City could potentially claim damages against the Premier League. In Man City's case, I think they will struggle given there will be many mitigating factors in the Premier League's favor thanks to the other case. Premier League rules also require adherence to UEFA rules, and as such this will also create mitigating factors, but it is possible the Premier League will have to pay some clubs damages, but this has no impact on the latest APT rules, which still stand and stop Man City from securing that huge mega sponsorship deal that could effectively help them survive during their years in the wilderness if they get relegated, hopefully. And finally, I want to blast the Premier League for denying the appeal from Aston Villa and Liverpool to postpone the Aston Villa-Liverpool game, even though both teams face 5 games in 15 days. Which is absolutely insane, considering Aston Villa only have 1 league game in March. How does that make sense? That they have like 6 or 7 league games in February and then 1 Premier League game in March. It's absolutely nonsensical. And Aston Villa also face Cardiff City in the FA Cup, so maybe they have 5 games in 15 days, not 5 league games as Liverpool have. And both teams are basically punished for having a successful season and going far in various competitions. Unai Emery said the schedule doesn't make sense. We are going to play a lot of matches in a row in February and not many matches in March. It is not really fair for us. And Aston Villa's squad are already stretched thin, with key players such as Ollie Watkins, Paul Torres, Tyrone Mings, Matty Cash, all missing their FA Cup tie against Tottenham. They won that, but Ollie Watkins is a doubt for the weekend game and a doubt for the Liverpool game as well. And Arne Slot, of course, has fewer fitness concerns, but still, we have Joe Gomez out, we have Tyler Morton out. It stretches really any squad, in my opinion. Playing 5 games in 15 days is absolutely insane. It's even worse than the December Boxing Day period. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a nice day. See you later. Goodbye.